Hey everyone, let's look at the tools of monetary policy. We are going to look at the first tool of monetary policy here, which is open market operations conducted by the Federal Open Market Committee. Over here, the Fed is buying treasury bonds and selling treasury bonds to the commercial banks. The reason behind this is we are looking at monetary policy and the Fed wants to change the quantity of money supply in the economy and also change the level of interest rates. Now let's look at this using numbers. So initially I have the Happy Banks, which is the commercial bank in our example. Happy Bank's balance sheet, which consists of assets on the left and liabilities and net worth on the right, and both number matches up. The assets are divided into reserves, which is the amount of money the commercial bank owns. Then it has bonds and it has loans. And everything adds up to 460. Then the Fed comes in and decides to buy bonds from the commercial banks. So the Fed decides to buy $20 million in bonds. So you can subtract 20 from the initial 120 and we end up with $100 million of bonds. Now, the Fed is buying bonds and the Fed is providing the commercial banks with reserves. That means the commercial banks are getting extra money. So the amount of reserves is increasing from step A to step B by $20 million. Now, if you look at step C here, the commercial banks do not want $60 million in reserves. They want the original $40 million. So they will take $20 million out of reserves and add it to their loans so that the amount of loans increases from 300 to 320. What is the take home here? The Fed buys bonds from the commercial banks worth $20 million and the lending capacity of the commercial bank increases by $20 million. So the extra $20 million the commercial banks are getting from the Federal Reserve Bank, they're gonna loan out to the economy, which will increase money supply and reduce interest rate. Hope this makes sense. Now we are gonna look at another situation where the Fed will decrease money supply. The way it does that is by selling treasury bonds. Over here, the Fed is selling treasury bonds worth $30 million. So the amount of treasury bonds increases from 120 to 150 in step B. And the commercial banks are paying for these bonds using its reserves. So the reserves are going down by $30 million and they have $10 million in reserves. So if you look at step C here, the commercial banks need to hold some reserves, which is equal to $40 million, and they will keep the initial value of reserves, which is equal to 40. The way they're doing it is by taking $30 million of the amount of loans, so that the amount of loans is going down by $30 million. So the loans goes down from 300 to 270. Over here, the take home again is when the Fed is selling treasury bonds to the commercial bank, the commercial banks loses its lending capacity and the amount of loans in the economy goes down. As a result, the money supply in the economy will go down and the interest rate will increase. You'd say money supply is inversely related to interest rates. So what you looked at before when the Federal Reserve Bank wanted to increase money supply, the increase in money supply is equal to the amount of T-bills, they buy, and the decrease in money supply is also equal to, I would rather say, the value of T-bills the Fed is selling to the commercial banks. Alright, that's all for now.